Well, I want to move to tariffs. Trump tariff. No, actually, it's Trump's tariff stimmies. Um, so here's how I want to approach it, right? So it says from the Oval Office, President Trump confirms he will be rolling out $2,000 terrorist dividend checks to low and middle income Americans. And I want to play this clip.
We're going to issue a dividend to our middle income people and lower income people of about $2,000. And we're going to use the remaining tariffs to lower our debt. We're going to be lowering our debt, which is a national security thing. So we're doing a lot of good work. The numbers were reported so incorrectly. The real numbers are trillions of dollars have been taken in or gotten in terms of investment from the tariffs. And so if that were ever reversed, it would be a disaster. Frankly, it would be a national security problem for our country. And nobody thinks it's going to be reversed. I think we had a very good court case. As you know, it's before the Supreme Court right now. But if that were ever reversed, people are saying, oh, it's $1 billion. Some people said, oh, it's $2 billion. Well, that obviously we can handle very easily. But this is trillions of dollars we're talking about in terms of the tariff income and all the investment income that's come into our country. We're going to issue a
Okay, here's the thing. At the end of World War II, 1945, the whole world was trashed. It was wrecked. The United States had been essentially untouched by the war, but it had 18 million of its youth in uniform. It had twice that, at least, maybe 3 times that, involved in heavy industry and manufacturing to support the war. And you had people who had just gotten out of the Great Depression. So you had some hard people who developed hard attitudes, who got tested, run through boot camp, shown that they can do things that they cannot fathom doing before they made it. And what they faced was a hugely expanded industrial base and the fact that their potential markets had been destroyed. So they got the Marshall Plan in place to build up Europe. They got MacArthur and his Shogun over in Japan to build up Japan. And they knocked out the tariffs for the specific purpose of encouraging the development of Europe and Asia so that they could be restored to their former circumstances economically and we could sell to them. Now, they have recovered fully. And if you go out and look in your driveway, I bet you have a German or a Japanese car or a Korean car sitting out there. English car sitting out there. So,
well,
we have allowed our industry to be transported outside of the country, which removes the sources of jobs to overseas where the labor market is cheaper. The American investments have not stayed in the United States, but followed the factories. They've gotten products that they can sell for the same price that American-made products are sold, but they are much cheaper to make and much more profitable, and Americans aren't put to work. They're put out of work, and we pay higher prices, which leads to inflation. Up until World War II, we had very high tariffs. And what that did is it guaranteed that the American worker had a job, a well-paying job, a job that paid him more for doing what he did than he would have gotten anywhere else in the world. Now that is not the case. We have Americans going without jobs, and we have a party that's hell-bent on opening the borders up so the labor market can be made even more difficult for the American laborer. So now it's time to put tariffs back in place so that it no longer will remain attractive for American industry to relocate overseas and deprive Americans of jobs, manufacturing opportunities, and the circumstance of being hard at work and everybody wants what we have to offer. So tariffs are a good thing, not just for the money that's made out of it, but for what it does to encourage labor, industry, science, technology, and enterprise inside the United States instead of trying to export them. How many people do we see down in the hood with a pair of Air Jordans on, $280 tennis shoes, and they don't play any professional sport? But if you look at the label inside a pair of Air Jordans, it's a very insulting label. It doesn't just say made in Vietnam, it says made in Hanoi, Vietnam, which has a very bad taste for a whole lot of Americans because of what that represents. We were in a 7 year long war, and a whole bunch of young Americans got jacked around because of it. And now, what is it all about? Selling $280 tennis shoes where the person's whose name's on them and has nothing to do with designing them winds up getting more in royalties than they pay the entire labor force that makes the damn things. So why do we have that kind of situation? I can remember where everything in the kitchen drawer was made in America, or perhaps Sheffield, England, but now it's just made
Wait. So
in China.
you lived during a time where a lot of our stuff was made in America.
Nobody wanted anything from China. Yeah, I mean,
So
I
when did that shift change? Was it the 90s? Was it the 80s?
no, it started in about the 60s.
Oh,
What was going on was that's when you got the transference of the industry. It was quiet, but you could see it.
okay.
It's like in the late 1950s, nobody wanted anything made from Japan. You just got little trinkets. And now, by the end of the 60s, Japan's making the transistors and everything else. By the beginning of the 1980s, the best stuff was from Japan.
Now
Nobody.
that now that you said that, because if that started in the 60s where we started seeing made in China, wasn't that the same time where a lot of, whether it's the automobile, a lot of our factories were being outsourced overseas?
Yes, Detroit started becoming a rust belt. You got OPEC and the oil crisis that hit in 1974 that was just devastating to the American public. But guess who called the meetings to set OPEC up? It was the American Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger, under the Nixon administration, that called on the Shah of Iran to set up the meetings that led to OPEC. Guess who is responsible for the crisis that led to the quadrupling of the price of gas at the pump? Henry Kissinger, who was Secretary of State for Richard Milhouse Nixon. He called it. One of my roommates from Nigeria was with their energy department, and he was a briefcase carrying flunky at the time, he told me, and he went with his Minister of Industry to both sets of meetings and got told, beg, borrow, or steal all the money you can get and invest it in Japanese and German automotive manufacturing, because we're going to manipulate this to create massive inflation, which will reduce your debt load seriously and will increase the markets for German and Japanese automobiles. You'll make a fortune. And my friend was a billionaire. So when I last saw him, now he laid it out.
Mhm.
So I'm just saying, why is it that we set that up? That's part of this thing of exporting our business overseas. That's back when you had American Motors, General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler.
So
When you had Ford, you had Continentals, you had Lincolns, you had Mercuries, you had Thunderbirds.
so now Trump, what he's trying to do is bring back the goods, like have the goods made here. Even though you can't get 100%, but he wants a lot of things as much as possible to be made in America, bring jobs back here. So he's trying to reverse what the
Yeah,
Nixon
I mean, there's no
administration
longer a need
created.
for there's no longer a need to have tariff-free goods brought into the country that put Americans out of work, that increase what we have to pay for the goods and enhance those people that are profiteering off of the circumstances who are not taxed appropriately.
So people are saying that we pay for the tariffs, and I want to play this clip.
No, we don't pay for the tariff. That's bullshit. That's because they don't understand economics. The problem is we do not pay for the tariffs. What we do get is, as a result of the imposition of tariffs, you get Americans who get put to work, who have work opportunities, American entrepreneurs who get the circumstances changed so that they can productively invent things, make things, and have markets that were not there before.
Let me play this clip real quick.
A lot of people are talking about this. President Donald Trump teased the idea of sending out $2,000 checks to families because of his tariff policy and the money that's coming in. Is there a reason for people to be skeptical of the president's idea?
And I know a lot of people maybe are putting down their coffee cup as we talk about this story. Who doesn't want money from the government coming back, right? We can all use it coming up on the holiday season. There's reason to be skeptical about this policy ever coming to fruition. One, the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, on the Sunday Public Affairs show was asked about it, and he didn't seem to roll out or suggest there was an imminent big policy announcement to be made. If something was happening quick, soon, the Treasury Secretary would have been more candid and more involved. Secondly, remember what the Supreme Court could do in the coming weeks. They could strike down President Trump's ability to even issue these tariffs in the first place that has raised tens of billions of dollars. It's making it possible for the president to talk about the idea of this tariff dividend check to Americans. It's possible the president loses that power by the Supreme Court in an upcoming opinion. And then you're talking about the idea of, well, does that money need to go back to companies and businesses that paid it? Again, reason to be skeptical about this $2,000 check from $2,000 promise from President Trump on Truth Social over the weekend.
Joe St. George live in Washington, D.C.
You know what? It may be just as he says, but what the hell is your sissy ass coming up with as a point to make it better for the American public? Not one.
I have another.
Not one damn proposal do we hear but doom and gloom, and we need to socialize everything and take care of all of you and make all of your decisions. Keep you stuck on stupid, diverted by distractions, and paying no attention to what the hell happens, and keep your dumb behinds in a crib from cradle to grave.
Right. I want to play this clip here because Reese, she's part of the Democrat liberal lovers plantation, but it kills me when people are trying to paint a narrative to call Trump a liar and he's lying, he can't do it, and they're not.
Wait a minute. He's done everything he said. He's tried to do everything he said. Most of these lying Democrats get in and don't even try.
Right. So let me play this, and then I want to get your opinion.
Donald Trump's funky ass is not giving Americans $2,000 back from all of this tariff revenue that he has illegally collected. I need y'all to be fucking for real. But since it's making all the blogs, they're just reprinting his words. Let me break it down to you as y'all favorite cousin economic expert. Here's the thing. Number one, he hasn't actually collected trillions of dollars like he said. That's number one. Estimates put it at $185 billion. Now, if we use the same number of payments that were made during the stimmies being sent out, that's over 140 million people. Mind you, those were means tested, so not even every American got those. At that number of payments, that's $300 billion. So if you only have 185, how you going to give out $300 billion? It's the math. Number two, it would have to originate in Congress. Now, Donald Trump has unconstitutionally and illegally levied these tariffs, which are supposed to happen from Congress. But what he cannot do is send out checks without Congress. This same bitch ass Congress is fighting tooth and nail the Republicans to keep the government shut down to avoid authorizing $32 billion in ACA subsidies, Obamacare subsidies. So in what fucking world is the same Congress, Republicans, going to authorize $300 billion of tax refunds, and I emphasize refunds because we as Americans pay Donald Trump's tariffs. Not China, not Brazil, not Canada. We pay the taxes. They're not going to authorize tax refunds because they only believe in giving billionaires and millionaires tax cuts. And if you don't believe me that Republicans would not be authorizing these refund checks, just look at what happened with the stimmies. The reason why we got stimmies when Donald Trump was in office and under Biden and Harris was because Democrats controlled the House. Republicans control the House now. Mike Johnson may be Donald Trump's bitch, but he is not giving out $300 billion to everyday Americans. On top of that, he's claiming that he's going to pay down the debt and give out checks. Giving Americans tax refunds does not pay down the debt of the United States. That actually takes money away that you could use to pay down the debt. So he's trying to double count the money, he's trying to overstate the money, and he's trying to claim that he's going to do something that he has no fucking authorization to do, and hell would freeze over before it happened. So don't hold your breath on those tax refunds, because they ain't coming just like them damn Doge checks never goddamn came. But here's what realistically actually should be happening right now. Donald Trump should be paying out the SNAP benefits that he has been ordered to do by multiple courts and he is defying. John Thune needs to get his ass in a room and make a fucking deal with the Democrats and fund the Obamacare subsidies for one little measly year. Again, I've already put out the numbers. It costs less to fund the Obamacare subsidies than they've given to Argentina. Make Argentina great again. And Mike Johnson needs to call the goddamn Congress back and quit being afraid of them fucking Epstein files being released and get the government open. Period.
Here's the real
Epstein files don't have shit to do with running the government. They're just gossip matters. Next damn thing is, fool, the foreign governments do pay the excise and the tariff assessments. It eats into their economies, and that induces them to say, okay, we lose money on the deal too, so let's do what we can to accommodate it. You saw how easy China went along with it, where they're agreeing on some things to pay 55% tariff assessments. And by the way, the president is the chief diplomatic officer, so he does have leeway to do certain things when it comes to foreign policy. He sets foreign policy, and if he wants to make his foreign policy dictate part of the supreme law of the land, he simply has to produce a treaty and get it ratified by the Senate, which under Article 6 of the United States Constitution makes it part of the supreme law of the land, along with the Constitution and its amendments and such body of laws that are passed to help the Constitution operate. So, yeah.
Reese does curse a lot. Dexter says she's always cursing. She does curse a lot.
She doesn't do anything much besides that because she doesn't have a grasp of what she's talking about.
Well, she did say if he does send out $2,000 tariff checks, that will increase the debt.
No, not really. See, what happens is that's how the Depression got ended. The administration of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, that's the Democrat that brought them back into being popular again outside of the South. He said, if you put Americans to work, they make money. When they spend money, that means that they can support the development of industry. And when industry prospers and people spend money after they make it, what do? They pay taxes. So the taxes go back in to cover what you spent out so that they could get back on their feet. Now,
well, here's the thing, because she contradicted herself, because if she's saying that if he sends out $2,000 of tariff stimulation checks to middle class, lower class, or whatever American people, that's going to increase the debt. And then on the next sentence, she said, well, when they sent out the COVID stimulus checks, that was mainly because of the Democrats who were controlling Congress. But dumbass, if they sent out those stimulus checks and that was weekly during the lockdown, didn't that increase the debt? If she's saying that this will increase the debt, if he send out stimulus checks.
See, look at this. Look at it this way. See, what Donald Trump is also doing is setting up a coherent program. He is telling his Republican Party, hey, don't compromise with these Democrats and paying out $5,000 a month payout to illegals for support. Don't pay out for these illegals for medical care under Obamacare when you aren't even letting that happen for American citizens.
Right.
And by the way, when you support Obamacare, you're supporting something that the Republicans came up with that they now have the integrity to attack is being faulty.
Now, and she
Kind
mentioned,
of stupid, isn't it?
right, and she mentioned,
Republicans going out on the limb. I mean, the Democrats going out on a limb to support a Republican bill.
and she was like, "Oh, yeah, I never got those checks. They never said they was going to give us
They
those.
did.
They didn't. They just said, "Oh, we're saving so much money, we could." They never said they were.
Well, there are some states that have legalized gambling that make so much in terms of the income from the gambling that regularly, when there's a surplus, they give any taxpayers in the state a little extra bonus